Well, we're now joined by Anurag Viswanath, who is a fellow at the Institute of Chinese Studies and joining us live from Singapore. So, warm welcome to the programme. Realistically, what are the chances of relations between these two heavyweights being restored, do you think?
US-China relations are very complex, very complicated. They're not friends. They're not enemies. For lack of better word, they're frenemies. On one hand, they are strategic partners. On the other hand, they're strategic competitors. So the bottom line of this visit is to normalize, to stabilize relations with China. In fact, one of the top priorities of this visit is to foster mutually beneficial relations. In fact, China-US relations seem to be walking on two legs. There is the economic component, the economic leg, and there is the political leg. So politically, there is friction on Taiwan, on Ukraine, China's cozy relations with Russia, North Korea, the South China Sea. But economically, trade relations between China and the US are booming. In fact, China is the third largest trade partner, and trade is almost 690 billion, so that's a lot. And in fact, the deficit runs into more than 300 billion. So economically, the relations are economically hot, but politically not. So there is friction.
And why is it so important that Washington and Beijing get along?
Well, everybody's been talking about decoupling and de-risking, but it is impossible to separate relations between China and the US because they're mutually dependent. There is mutual interdependence. When you have China, which exports chemicals and almost a lot of electrical appliances that go to the US, and US, of course, exports agricultural products and chemicals. So there is a lot of dependence on each other. So decoupling is probably rhetoric, and of course there is a context to it. US presidential elections are just around the corner, so it could just be some, well, for lack of better words, some noise for the domestic audience. But economically, the relations are pretty much on track.
Anurag,
and of course, it is important to keep the channels of communication open between these two great powers, a great Asian power and the global superpower.
Anurag Viswanath, thank you so very much indeed for your time today. A fellow at the Institute of Chinese Studies joining us live from Singapore. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.